There was a time, not too long ago, when I was drowning in financial stress. My bank account was a battlefield, paycheck in, bills out, and nothing left. I wasn't living. I was surviving. And worse than the numbers was the feeling that came with it. That tight chest every time I opened my banking app. That invisible weight on my shoulders when a friend asked if I wanted to go out for dinner, and I had to lie. I'm busy, because I couldn't afford it. I had a job. I worked hard. But I was stuck in a cycle that never seemed to end. The kind of cycle most people are familiar with but rarely talk about. Month after month, I told myself, next time I'll save. Next month I'll invest. But that next month never came. And deep down, I believe that people who became millionaires had something I didn't: luck, connections, or maybe just a different kind of brain. Looking back now, that belief was the real trap. Because no strategy in the world works if you're convinced that success is for them and not for you. But here's the truth. The person I was back then is probably not so different from who you are right now. The difference wasn't in what I knew. It was in what I believed was possible. And it took one moment, one painful, eye-opening moment, to shake me out of that sleep. And that moment changed everything. The wake-up call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays used to be the day I checked my bank account, just to see if I could make it through the week. But that day, it wasn't just tight. It was empty, and worse. I had overdraft fees stacking on top of each other like dominoes. Then my phone buzzed. A payment declined. $9.99. A simple subscription I'd forgotten about. That tiny notification, that red minus sign, hit me harder than any big bill ever had. I just sat there, staring at my phone. Not angry, not even sad. Just hollow. That was my wake-up call. It wasn't some dramatic movie scene. It wasn't someone yelling at me to change. It was quiet, and it was real. I realized right then, no one was coming to save me. Not the government. Not a new job. Not some miracle investment tip on YouTube. Just me. And that realization was terrifying, but also freeing. Because if I was the problem, I could also be the solution. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I grabbed a notebook. I didn't write numbers. I didn't calculate anything. I just wrote one sentence. This ends now. And I meant it. The very next day, I started looking for answers. Not tricks. Not hacks. Just clarity. I wanted to understand why people who earned the same or less than I did were somehow building wealth while I was stuck in survival mode. What I found next blew my mind. Why most people stay broke. Here's what I learned almost immediately. Being broke isn't just about money. It's about patterns. And most of us are following a pattern that's designed to keep us exactly where we are. We're told to work hard, get a good job, and spend what we earn. Because, hey, we deserve it, right? That mindset alone is a trap. People spend money not to build a life, but to escape the one they're living. A new phone, a vacation, a night out, none of it is wrong. But when it becomes a way to numb reality instead of improve it, it's a problem. And then there's a paycheck cycle. You earn, you spend, you survive, then you repeat. No room for growth. No margin for change. Just enough to get by. But here's the real kicker. Most people don't stay broke because they're lazy. They stay broke because they're distracted. Distracted by noise. By advertising that sells you things you don't need. By financial gurus promising fast success. By fear. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of starting small. Fear of looking dumb. The system loves that fear. Because scared people don't act. They stay still. They keep swiping their cards, paying their minimums, watching their dreams collect dust. And I was one of them. For years. Until I realized something powerful. Wealth isn't built with emotion. It's built with discipline. With boring, consistent, almost invisible actions that feel like they don't matter. Until one day they do. That's when the real shift happened. It wasn't about learning a strategy. It was about becoming the kind of person who could follow one. The mindset shift that opened the door to wealth. Before I ever made a single dollar in investments, I had to invest in something far more important. My mindset. See, I used to think that money was scarce. That there wasn't enough to go around. That if someone else was rich, It meant I had less of a chance. That mindset made me hoard fear and avoid taking risks. It made me chase security instead of opportunity. But then I read something that flipped my world upside down. Money is just a reflection of value. If you want more, create more. It hit me. I wasn't broke because money hated me. I was broke because I wasn't providing consistent value. Not to myself, not to others, and not to the world. So I started doing what rich people do. I stopped asking how much something cost and started asking what it would return, not just in dollars, but in discipline, in knowledge, in momentum. I realized that poor people spend money to look rich. Rich people invest money to stay free. That single mindset shift changed how I saw everything. Every dollar I touched became a tool, not a toy. Every expense became a decision, not a reflex. And every small investment felt like planting a seed, even if I couldn't see the results yet. The irony? Once I stopped obsessing over getting rich and started focusing on building habits that align with wealth, the money started to show up. It didn't flood in all at once. It built slowly, quietly, but it was real, and it was mine. That's when I was finally ready for the strategy, not the fantasy, not the hype, the real, tested, boring strategy that actually builds wealth. And here's where everything changed. Discovering the strategy, the power of simplicity. I used to think becoming a millionaire required complexity, secret knowledge, insider access, maybe even a little luck. But the truth is, the strategy that changed my life wasn't flashy. It wasn't something I learned from a guru on a yacht or in a $2,000 course. I found it buried in a book most people ignore, a book about fundamentals, about discipline, about simplicity. And the first sentence that grabbed me said this: if it's not simple, it's not sustainable. That line stuck with me, because the wealthy don't build their empires on complicated systems. They build on consistent systems. They do the same basic things over and over again. And it's boring, but it works. So I stopped chasing crypto spikes, day trading highs, and the next big stock tip. I stopped looking for a magic bullet and started asking a different question. What can I do every month without fail for the next 10 years? That question led me to a simple 3-step strategy. No tricks, no timing the market, just a rhythm, like brushing your teeth, like working out, like showing up for yourself whether you feel like it or not. And when I applied it, slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, my life began to shift. I want to walk you through that strategy now, not in theory, but in practice. The exact steps I took, the ones that built the foundation of my first million. Let's start with step 1. Step 1, pay yourself first, always. This was the first real habit that changed everything. I started paying myself first. Simple, right? But let me tell you, almost no one actually does this. Most people earn money and immediately send it out. Rent, food, subscriptions, coffee, nights out, impulse buys. And if there's anything left at the end of the month, they think about saving. Maybe, but that's backwards. Wealthy people do the opposite. The moment money comes in, they take a portion, before anything else, and pay themselves. Not for spending, not for treating themselves, but for building. Here's what I did. I set up an automatic transfer. The day my paycheck hit, 20% moved into a separate account, non-negotiable. I treated it like a bill. The most important bill I had, my freedom bill. At first, it was uncomfortable. I thought, I can't afford to do this. But the truth is, I couldn't afford not to. That money became the seed of everything I'd eventually build. And just like going to gym, the habit mattered more than the amount. Even if I could only do $50 at first, it was about proving to myself that my future came first. You'd be shocked at how quickly that grows, especially when you stop seeing that money is spendable. It's not there to touch. It's there to build, to grow, to move you from survival to strategy. Paying yourself first flips the script. It tells your brain, I am the priority now. Not the bills, not the distractions, not the lifestyle. Me, my freedom, my future. Once I mastered that, the second step amplified everything. Step 2, the 70-30 rule of wealth. Once I got used to paying myself first, I needed a structure, a system that made sure I wasn't just saving, but growing intentionally. That's when I discovered what I now call the 70-30 rule of wealth. It goes like this. You live on 70% of what you make, period. The other 30%, that's where the magic happens. Now, most people hear that and immediately say, there's no way I can live on 70% of my income. But here's the truth. If you don't create a limit, your lifestyle will always rise to meet your income and then exceed it. That's why people earning six figures still live paycheck to paycheck. I started tracking where every dollar went, and I realized I was bleeding money on stuff that added zero value to my life. Cutting that fat didn't make my life worse. It made it lighter, sharper, more focused. Now, here's how I broke down the remaining 30%. 10% went to long-term investing. No-touch, compound growth plays. 10% went to short-term goals or personal development. Courses, books, skills. 10% went to giving, helping family, causes I care about, even random acts of generosity. That last 10% changed me the most. It reminded me that wealth isn't just about stacking money. It's about becoming someone who can multiply value for yourself and for others. And the crazy part? Living on 70% didn't feel like a sacrifice. It felt like freedom, because I wasn't reacting to life anymore. I was leading it. By following this rule, my money had direction, purpose, and because of that, it started to grow. Not fast, but steady, predictable, real. And once that rhythm was in place, I was ready for the third step, the step that truly built my wealth. Step 3, investing in assets that grow while you sleep. This is the part where everything I've been building, discipline, structure, mindset, finally started to pay off. Literally. Because now, with money set aside consistently, it was time to put that money to work. Not in something trendy, not in something risky, but in assets that grow quietly while you sleep. Let me be clear. I didn't start out with thousands to invest. I started small. A few $100s here and there. But I was consistent, relentless, focused on one thing, growth over time. I chose simple, proven vehicles, index funds, ETFs, and dividend-paying stocks. Boring to most, but powerful when given time. I wasn't trying to beat the market. I was trying to become the market. And while others were chasing quick wins, I was planting seeds, month after month, rain or shine, bull market or bear. I kept showing up. Over time, something incredible happened. Compound interest took over. The small gains started to snowball. My portfolio, once invisible, started to grow. And I wasn't doing anything different, just staying the course. That's the beauty of true wealth. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It grows quietly in the background while you live your life. And because I wasn't checking my investments every 5 minutes, I had peace. I could focus on earning more, learning more, and living more, knowing that my money was building momentum, even while I slept. This is what separates wealthy people from those always chasing. They play the long game. They don't try to outsmart the market. They align with it, and they let time do the heavy lifting. But to stay on that path, I had to protect myself from distractions and from the traps that almost knocked me off course. What I avoided like the plague. For every smart move I made, there were 10 tempting distractions trying to pull me off track. And I'll be honest, some almost did. Because the road to wealth isn't just about what you do. It's also about what you don't do. Here's what I avoided like the plague, and what you should too if you're serious about building lasting wealth. First, lifestyle creep. That silent killer that shows up when you get a raise and immediately upgrade your car, your clothes, your apartment. It's disguised as rewarding yourself, but in reality, it just keeps you chained to the same cycle, only with shinier handcuffs. Second, chasing trends. I watch people around me dive into crypto pumps, meme stocks, get-rich-quick startups. Some won big. Most lost more. I reminded myself, slow money is secure money. Fast money is a trap. Third, financial advice from broke people. Sounds harsh, but it's real. If someone wasn't where I wanted to be financially, I stopped listening to their opinions about money. That included friends, family, Even influencers. Respect their voice, sure, but filter their advice. Fourth, debt for pleasure. I cut out credit card debt like a cancer. If I couldn't afford it in cash, I didn't need it. Simple rule. Hard at first, life-changing later. And most importantly, I avoided the belief that it's too late. That lie is everywhere. You should have started earlier. You missed the boat. But let me tell you, your timeline is your power. It's not about when you start. It's about that you start. Avoiding these traps wasn't always easy. But every time I said no to a distraction, I was saying yes to a life of freedom. And that's what this journey has always been about. Not just money, but freedom. And the final piece of the puzzle? That's when everything became bigger than me. One day, I looked at my account and realized something strange. I wasn't stressed. I wasn't counting days to payday. I wasn't worried about bills or emergencies or unexpected costs. For the first time in my life, I wasn't surviving, I was thriving. But what hit me even harder was this. Money was no longer just about me. It wasn't just about escaping debt or buying freedom. It was about what I could build beyond myself. That's the shift most people never talk about. Once you reach a certain point, wealth stops being a personal escape and starts becoming a tool for impact, for legacy. I started thinking differently. Not what can I buy, but what can I create? Not how do I retire early, but how do I build something that outlives me? That's legacy mode. It's helping your parents retire with dignity. It's setting your kids up with wisdom, not just wealth. It's funding causes you believe in, supporting people you care about, creating ripple effects that go far beyond your bank balance. And the best part? None of it came from genius, or inheritance, or luck. It came from simple steps, boring habits, clear intention, and a commitment to a strategy that works. So if you're watching this thinking, can I really do this? Hear me clearly. Yes, you can. Not overnight, not effortlessly, but absolutely, without a doubt, yes. Because the real strategy isn't about where to put your money. It's about who you become in the process. And once you start, you'll never go back.